What would this Joe today say to the Joe maybe 15 years ago?
I mean, the same thing I told myself then. You either need to get in or get out. You know, get on board and fucking do it. If you want to get sober, get sober. If you don't want to get sober, then quit being a fucking pussy and go do it. You know, go to prison. Go do what the big boys do. Go get it done. You know, go die. You know,
Right.
The bottom line, Marcel, is I just want to be a good son, a good dad, a good husband. You know what I mean? You know, ultimately that's my goal. Actions speak louder than words.
Right.
You know, if someone can look at me and say, damn, that dude has a fucking awesome relationship with his wife, you know, or someone can look at me and say, damn, that dude fucking kills it with his kids, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or damn, you know, look at his mom's his best friend, you know what I mean?
Right. What is your definition of a bad cop?
Okay, they're not bad cops, okay? They are bad people that just happen to be a cop, all right? So you think about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
That person was a jerk or a weirdo or a clown before they became a cop. They get the badge on. That allows them to exacerbate all their bad traits, okay? So they get to hide behind the badge. Those traits, like we mentioned before, that 70% of who I am, those traits were already in that person.
Mm-hmm.
And he just got, you know, he slipped through the cracks.
Any one of you ever stepped out on any relationship?
Am I going first?
I know, right? I'm like,
And I wasn't even call on nobody either.
who's gonna go? Yeah, I'll say I have.
Mhm.
I have. It's not the favorite moment of my life.
So
right?
two questions, right? So at that time, why? And now thinking back on it, you know, what are your thoughts looking back on it versus real time?
Real time, why? Because I was trying to get out of the relationship, and that seemed like a surefire way to end it. So that was one of the why. And a lot of like other why, because I didn't have skills that I needed to have, like similar skills, right? Like, hey, this is what I need. You're not doing what I want. These conflict skills, I didn't have those. So I was like, okay, you won't want me now. Like that'll do it, right?
What makes me necessary is my love of food and how I can do to change that industry and make that industry better, more inclusive. As I continue to grow in myself, it just makes me more want to give back and to help. There's a lot of people that need help, and one of the things I'm trying to do is start working with a group called Culinary Love. And Culinary Love is a great program working in the industry to try to work with a lot of the trauma that I've talked about a little bit here, just with how people are treated, but also with a lot of the inherent drug and alcohol abuse in my industry, depression in my industry, anxiety in the industry, so that we're just safer and better cooks and people in general, so we're not letting this industry crumble us. Long days, long nights, unappreciative owners and chefs, low pay in some cases, very, very stressful, difficult times. We have, you know, if you don't like a meal, man, you might not come back. You might not tell 20 of your friends to come back. A lot of people take it out in alcohol and drugs and depression and even suicide in our industry.
Yeah.
You're isolating. You don't want to be around. You can't shower. Sometimes you can't get out of bed. You don't want to eat. And you're just sitting there ruminating. And honestly, you know, I can't speak for other people who suffer, but you do think about leaving the planet because this thing is, I can't handle this, and nobody understands me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow. Yeah, that's heavy.
You know, when I've had those thoughts of, and I'm isolating, and you know, my friends are knocking on the door, can Preston come out and play, or I'm hanging out with my cousins, and you know, I might get withdrawn. But in our community, this was my experience. There's a couple things that you didn't want to happen to you. You didn't want somebody to call you a punk because you got to fight. If they say something about your mama, you got to fight, and then. If you call somebody crazy, you don't want that on you as well. So I'm thinking, okay, so I got one. You know, they're calling me crazy, so I can't go tell anybody I'm feeling this anxiety or this heaviness. You know, kids were seen and not heard, so there was nobody to go talk to.
My abuser was my ex-husband.
Okay, and if you would, what type of abuse did you endure and eventually get out from under?
First was the emotional abuse. Then it went on to the this even spiritual abuse. I don't know if you ever heard about that, but that exists. And when I use the word spiritualist, he's a reverend, a minister. So it was about acting verbally beat downs, and we will show up at church and we will hold hands and pay tithes. Even though in the vehicle he was screaming and hitting the dashboard and scaring the children and I. And then I also experienced physical abuse where he attacked. I even lost a pregnancy due to an altercation.
What is it that makes you necessary?
At the end of the day, I feel like I am necessary because, one, there's just not enough doctors out there, and two, there's sure as hell not enough doctors out there that will just, listen to you. One thing I can truly say is, the patient walks into my office room, no matter what they're coming in with, where they've been, what they've done, what's gone on in their life, I can guarantee you I'll at least give them the opportunity to get an unbiased opinion from me.
He basically said that the reason why I was successful at this project that I was kind of presenting, he said, well, you're successful, like you did a great job and it was really well received because you're an attractive woman presenting to a bunch of men.
Wow.
And I'm like, or I was successful because I killed it, I prepared for it, I worked for it, I earned it, right? And, and it was like, so now this new person, this peer of my bosses at the time, is never going to look to me to find me for a project, right? Not unless he's got an audience full of men that he wants to impress. And that's gross. Like, that's just gross to me.
My sister passed away, right? She was 12 years old. And I was, 24 at the time, I believe. And to your point, I remember being at the wake, right? And this was devastating. This was traumatic. You didn't know that at the time, but it was a traumatic experience.
That's right.
So I get to the wake and, the reality hits and I just start crying. And one of my father's friends grabbed me by the arm and he said, you better suck it up. That's what he told me. He was like, you better suck it up. Not now, not here. And what did I do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is an authority figure, someone that I respect and look up to, telling me this is not how a man acts. So I fell right for it.
Yeah.
Right. And at my own little sister's funeral, I had to train myself not to emote. Right. Imagine that. Thanks for making the time to listen to these clips of the I Am Necessary podcast. I am your host, Marcel Johnson. You can find these full clips and more at www.iamnecessary.org or on your favorite podcast platform.
Wow. Billion. JSX check-ins, we don't do TSA, still got shoebox money, we don't do BFA, we don't do net 30s, unless it's biz credit, billion evaluation, that's where the biz headed. I heard the crown heavy, lucky I'm big-headed, lucky I'm big-hearted, I would've